Franka and mine, and
yeah. Where's my mute? There we go. Mute all and then unmute. Just a second, Jonathan. What goes up? Jonathan Rollins. Okay, sometimes it's easier to mute everybody than just unmute you two, so you're all set.
okay. Tonight we have a very, are we ready to go, Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Tonight we have a very special guest artist. Her name is Franka Gabler. She lives up near Yosemite. I met her through Spectrum Gallery, which is a wonderful place. And I had a chance to see firsthand many of her photographs, so they're just absolutely gorgeous. I assume most of you has read her bio. It was published in the newsletter. And she mentioned something about science and photography, and I'm going to ask her to expand just a little bit about the science photography connection, and we'll get right into her presentation after that. It's all yours, Franka.
Hi everyone, and thank you for inviting me for a demo today. And I'll start with a few words about myself. I am originally from Croatia. I moved to California 23 years ago as a young scientist. And right away, I fell in love with Yosemite and the Sierras. And soon after, I picked photography for my hobby, and that later evolved to be my second career. It helped that I moved to the rural area of Sierra foothills, which meant there were limited socializing opportunities such as clubbing. So I started hiking and exploring the mountains instead. I often photograph alone. To me, being by myself in nature is a spiritual experience where I go to recharge, decompress, reflect, and relax. For several years now, I've been drawn to subtle, moody, often intimate landscapes and compositions somewhere between abstract and the wider view, beyond the mere record of a location. And I also strive to depict mood in my photographs. I've been exhibiting my photography since 2008. I also joined Spectrum Art Gallery in 2008, which helped push my creativity and help refine my style. More recently, I've been engaging as a photography instructor and speaker at photography conferences, and in giving presentations for camera clubs such as yours. So Jonathan would like to know about the connection between science and photography. I think they're both creative. Science, to be a good scientist, you have to think outside the box. You have to think how to solve problems, and you also have to have technical knowledge. The same is with photography. You have to know your camera, you have to know how to use it, how to operate it, but also you have to be creative in terms of how you photograph, and you have to be willing to experiment, not just try same things over and over. And I even had my first Photoshop class when I worked as a postdoc at USDA. The University of California organized, they were worried about how scientists have poor pictures that cannot be used in publications. So they organized the class, Photoshop class, to kind of bring us up to speed. So this is where this is actually where I started using I bought digital camera, and I started learning Photoshop more in depth than that was provided through that class. And I think that's about it. And regarding my presentation today, I was thinking to demonstrate a few post-processing techniques that I use. Like first, I was going. Yeah, anybody has question?
No, I think we're good. We're good.
Okay. So first, I will share an example of pre-visualization. Then I'll show a few examples and demo a process I use for preparing an image, a color image for a dramatic black and white conversion. I also plan to demonstrate automated focus stacking in Photoshop. And lastly, I'll demo how to use simple layer masks in Photoshop if some of you are not familiar with the process. I use it all the time, so to me that's an essential tool. And if we have time, I can show a few examples of searching for unique and different views from well-known locations. So I can share my screen if we can start.
I just passed it over to you, so do you see it?
I can do it. Okay. So can you, oh, you can see my screen right now, and but no one can see my application. So you can see if, okay, here we are. I will show the, okay, I'm using Adobe Bridge to show what I wanted to talk about. So I'll talk about a little bit about pre-visualization, and this is a raw file just to show conditions at the time when I make the photo that I will talk about pre-visualization. So as you can see, the conditions were not ideal for photography, and I never processed this file, or I will not process it. I just took it as a record of a location and of the time. And so I'll start with providing some background info behind this image. Last February, I was one of the 15 speakers and instructors at the Out of Yosemite Photography Conference that was organized by Out of Chicago. And it was a privilege to teach alongside famous photographers such as John Sexton, Alan Ross, Charlie Kramer, William Neal, Michael Fry, and others. There were 100 attendees from all over the United States and abroad, and it was a great experience with a really packed program, and everyone was excited to be in Yosemite and learn. And on this particular afternoon, I was assigned to lead my group to Cook's Meadow. And this is a view from Cook's Meadow. And those who are familiar with the area know that the meadow is under restoration, and you can only walk on boardwalks and paved paths, which limits the vistas and possible compositions. And we were also blessed, as you can see, by cloudless skies, and that was a great creativity challenge because it forced us to think beyond obvious and to search for more creative compositions. We were also, well, luckily, the moon was almost full, and it's supposed to rise later that afternoon. So I planned for us to be at the location to capture the rising moon. Right away, I knew capturing the entire vista of Half Dome and North Dome using a wide-angle lens would not be so interesting, since the sky was boring and the wide-angle lens would make the moon appear small and insignificant. So I encouraged the group to also experiment with the telephoto lens and to try to include just parts of the mountains along with the moon. So I knew I wanted to make a black and white image from this. Again, first, the colors were not so interesting. And with blue skies, I knew that I could make a striking black and white image by using red filter simulation in post-processing. Composition-wise, I wanted to make a graphically strong image with interesting geometry, which meant I needed a long telephoto lens to isolate my composition that I had in mind. I had a round object, the moon, and the negative space around it that would help emphasize the moon. And since I used the telephoto lens, it compressed the scene and the moon appears larger. I also had two triangular shapes, negative space on the right side and the rock formation and the trees to the left that were equally dividing the composition. So there are few pre-steps I needed to do first on this color photograph prior to converting it to black and white. So I will proceed to edit this image so you can see the effect. And let me open it in Photoshop and try to show you what I usually do. So again, you have to pre-visualize. If you have blue skies, if you make the blue more saturated and more dark, when you convert it to black and white, it will be almost black. So what I'll do here is start from basic. Let me just bring out the whites until it reaches almost the right side of the histogram. And I can darken blacks a little bit. And now, so this will be just quick for a demo. And I will go to color mixer, select blue, and I will increase saturation, and I will darken it. So this is now, since it will never be a colored photograph, but I use it for black and white, it will work well. And that's about it. So now I'll open it. And if I go try to convert it, and pick black and white, and let's say I'm going to simulate red filter, this is the image. I'll make it a little bit smaller so you can see how it is. So next adjustment I would do is use the curves. I will use pick exact spot on that I want to work with. So I want to bring a little bit brighter and without overexposing it. So what I need to do is anchor this curve and bring that moon a little bit brighter. And maybe even here. And then I'll mask it, which I will explain later what I do. I'll just apply it to the moon. And then what I also wanted to do, I wanted to make this left area of the image a little bit darker. So I'll make a second layer of curves, and I'll pick this dark spot right here and make it darker. And then the last thing, what I would do, I wanted to crop it so the area here is similar, almost a mirror image of. So that's, I can show you before and after. My history. Oh, here it is. So this is how it started, and this is the end. So this was just a rough, quick edit to show you what I did. And just to recap, what I did is saturated and darkened the blues, which made the dark tones more dark when applying red, orange, or yellow filter, dark blues. And then I applied red, but you can also apply orange or yellow filter in white conversion. And now I will just close this one. I will not save it. Well, I'll save it right there, and I want to show you. So this is the one that I made a print of, and this is the one that I did quick edit. So I was a little bit sloppy here, but I made edits quickly in a couple of minutes. I don't know which one you like better, but this one I probably use orange filter, not red filter, so it's the blues a little bit lighter than here. And so similar things I did here, and I'll just show you before and after. And really, they're all just quick edits because, so what I did here is, again, darken the blues and saturated the blues. I prepared this raw file to be conducive to dramatic black and white conversion. So this is how it is when I did like similar process as I just explained. And the next one is echo peaks. This one even have dust spots here. This is the final edited image. So does anyone have any questions regarding this, so I can continue?
Go ahead and continue, Franka. You're doing a great job.
Okay, so shall I just continue?
Yeah.
Okay, now I'll talk about focus stacking in Photoshop. So let me make these images a little bit larger. So sometimes it's necessary to bracket for focus to have the entire scene in sharp focus, especially when we are using longer focal length. In many cases, when we are using a long telephoto lens, the hyperfocal distance method would not suffice for like single exposure will not be sufficient to make the entire scene sharp in focus. So the trick is to take several exposures, each focusing further into the scene, and then import these as layers in Photoshop, and then blend the layers in post-processing. So often it's quite easy to do manual focus layer blending in Photoshop unless there are lots of textures in the image, such as in these trees. In which case, manually blending the layers becomes a slow and tedious process. So luckily, Photoshop has an automated method for this, which works well in most instances. So one of my favorite times to photograph fall color, I'll just do a quick, this is unedited raw file straight out of camera, but we'll make it. So one of my favorite times to photograph fall color is when trees are almost bare and I have to pause this. And so the aspens have fair bark and it glows, and then surrounding vegetation has a chance to show off its subtle colors. So I photographed this in the Eastern Sierra, and I was drawn to the subtle colors of the contrasting textures, contrasting shapes, and hues of the willow bushes compared to those of the aspen trees. The round shapes and variety of color shades in willows were contrasting with vertical structures and lines of aspen trees. Since this grove was rather distant, I had to use a 400 millimeter lens to make this composition. So I knew I had to take 2 exposures. First one focusing on the 3 small trees right about here, and then the second one focusing on the tree in the background, which were out of focus. And I will enlarge it here so you can see how this is out of focus compared to this part, which is in very sharp focus. So what I did, I'll go to the second exposure now. So this is the first image, 100% enlarged. The second image, where I focused right about here, has this portion that's in focus and this portion not so much. So what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to automatically blend these 2 exposures in Photoshop. And first, we'll quickly edit it just so it looks, so I'm using Adobe Camera Raw to quickly edit this. I'll select both files, and you can see it was exposed to the left. Nothing is clipped, but I wanted to keep the darks, and also I was afraid that this was at 1/20th of a second. It was pretty dark with long telephoto. If I had longer exposure, I was afraid that maybe there would be some movement in foliage, so I'd rather have it darker than brighter and blurry. So I'll quickly edit this, like probably increasing just lights and maybe highlights. And I'll bring the temperature to a little bit cooler because I like the blues in the shade, maybe about here. And then I'll go to the curves, and I can again bring some lights up and highlights. And I think I can bring darks a little bit darker. Maybe even the shadows. And then I'll go to color mixer. I don't think I need to do, but maybe I can saturate blues a little bit just to see what it looks like. I call this series Autumn Blues. I like it blue. So I'll pick the orange color, and maybe I can increase luminance in orange and saturation just a tiny little bit. And I think that's good for what I want to show you. So I open both of these layers, and I will now blend them in Photoshop. I'll do focus stack. So now you see both of them are open. And what I'm going to do is I go to File, Script, and I'll go to click on Load Files into Stack. And then here, when this window opens, I'll just click Add Open Files, select both files, and click OK. And now it generated a third file, which has 2 stacks already in it. I could do that manually just by dragging layers, but sometimes if I have 4 or 5 different focus stacking points, it becomes more complicated. So I will select these layers. Do you see what I'm doing? I'm selecting the layers and I'll go to Edit. And first I want these layers to align, because sometimes they will, as you are focusing further, the images will slightly change. Their size will slightly change. So I will just auto align them right now. So I went to Edit, Auto Aligned, and I have Auto Projection selected. And that's all I have to do. I click OK. And now it will, now this layer should be aligned. So after I do this, just in case, I just a little bit to make sure that whatever was aligned, that's right now, that I don't have like a blank file. So I will crop this, and they're still selected on the right side. So while they're still both files selected, I'll go again to Edit and click Auto Blend Layers. And then check Stack Images, check Seamless Tones and Colors, and check Content Aware Fill Transparent Areas. And now the Photoshop is doing all the masking for me. And here's the final product. So if you see now, I will turn this off one layer. This is what it did. It selected these parts from the top image. And it selected these parts from the bottom image and merged them together. And now I'll just try to enlarge them so you can see the top is in focus. This is at 100%. And so the entire image is in sharp focus. And it's simple like that. And I before I used to do this manually, and it was really hard to do it in images like this when you have a lot of over areas that are a lot of textures. Like, you know, when would I do this manually? It will be really hard to put each separate, you know, try to find the where the blur part borders the sharp part and try to blend the layers. So I started using this, and I'm really happy with that. So that's the final product. And let me just, I'll close it, save it just so it's there. So this was automated focus stack in Photoshop. Oh no. Now, so if you need a quick recap, it was the workflow is basically process raw files, open in Photoshop, then click File, Script, load files into Stack, add open files, select those open files, select layers, then press edit and auto align layers, and then select layers again, and then click edit and click auto blend, and this is the final image. So that's all in sharp focus. And so I'll go now and talk about how to use simple layer masks in Photoshop. And I know a lot of people are using Lightroom, and I'm sure Lightroom can do the same. But as I mentioned earlier, since my first Photoshop class was prior to Lightroom and I learned it through work, I kept using Photoshop. I use Lightroom only to do my web galleries for my website, but I know it's a great program. So here is the composition I made in Death Valley. So these are the first two top files are raw images, and the bottom file is the final one. Okay, you can see it now better. The bottom file is the final processed file. So so I made this image in Death Valley, and so this emphasized the importance of composing before stepping in, as footprints can quickly ruin the pristine appearance of sand dunes. So just this time, it wasn't me, it was another person who walked in front of me and made more footprints. So I spotted this composition of a creosote bush among sand dunes, and to me, the scene appeared, it appeared as a woman's body. So just when I was ready to press the shutter release, this man walked into my composition. And of course, he couldn't tell what I was photographing, and he wasn't aware that he photobombed my scene. So I was standing on the top of the dune with my friends behind me, ready to move on. So I had to work quickly before my friends stepped in and made even more footprints, and this time closer to where I was standing. And after that, if my friends moved on, I would then have to wait until they're done photographing whatever they wanted to finish my originally planned composition. So I quickly took a second exposure with the men moving forward. So you see the men moved. This is my first composition, my second composition. And I knew that I was going to blend these two exposures and mask him out in Photoshop. So I will do a quick demo how how you can use layer masks to mask out portion of the images if you have multiple exposures. So I will open these in Photoshop. And I won't do any raw file adjustment. I'll just go straight to open both images. So what I could do is do the same method of stacking layers in Photoshop as I did before, or I could just drag a layer. So I will show you just different method because if I only have two layers, I have the bottom layers active now. I'll just drag the layer here, and now I have already two layers in Photoshop. So I don't need to change anything, but I could align them if I. So what I'm going to do is I will create a mask by clicking this button here. it shows create a mask. And now I have to click on the mask part, because not on the image part, but on the mask part. And what's important is that, see those two little squares with white and black? These are my masks. This will enable my mask. So it's important that the white square is on the top. And to do masking, so that's not using eraser, they're just using masks. They're just 4 quick keyboard shortcuts that you need to learn, or you can write them down and just practice. And it's once, you know, I can do it with closed eyes now because I've been using it all the time. So the 4 keyboard shortcuts is pressing X, then Control and Backspace, and then pressing B and pressing backslash, and that's all. So X, Control and backslash, B for brush, and then backslash. So what I'll do now is, what I did now, I made sure white colors is on the top here. That means this is the active layer. And you can click X to toggle between the layers. So if you see, if I click X, it changes. I'm toggling X. Now it's the black square is on the top, and if I toggle it again, now it's white is on the top. So what I'm doing now is I will click Control Backspace. Control Backspace or Command Backspace will be on Mac. It will fill this square with black. And so now I just have to activate the brush by pressing B and paint this person, and he's gone. And if you see, you know, I'm toggling, he's still present, he's just masked. And if you want to see the mask, you just press backslash keep. So this is my mask. This was, I can refine the selection if I want. Now I have to change it to black. By changing to black and white, I can reveal it or show it again. So if, let's say that I messed up, that I don't want this, I can just click to white, click to black, and mask it again. So I went too far, and I will just click X, which changes the color here in the to the left. And let's go back and clean him. And by pressing slash, so I will read those commands again. So he's gone. Here's my image, and then the good thing with masking, as opposed to erasing, you can always go back and fine tune the area if you maybe went further and masked too much, so you can back off a little bit and adjust it this way. So another thing that I did is I found this was distraction, and I did remove this. So this is the image. I will just close it now because it doesn't need to be here. I just want to show you the final image. What I made with this. That's my final rendering of the scene. Okay, I have to. So I wanted, so that's very contrasting from what I was showing before, you know, with that dark blacks. And first I didn't have blues, and I wanted this image to be more soft, more gentle, more feminine. So that's a demo how to use simple layer masks in Photoshop to to mask this person and then create the image without that person present. And then later on, I just worked to make it black and white and did some content over to remove this, the brush that was showing from the other side of the zoom. So if you want me to repeat the keyboard shortcuts is X, Control, backslash, B for brush, and backslash just to see, you know, when I had the red mask, when you can visualize your mask. And that's all. And you can also use this masking method to blend bracketed exposures in high contrast scenes, such as when you have one setting to capture highlights in the sky and a different setting to capture details in the shadows. If you don't want to use automated HDR blending, you can just use simple masking to blend exposures. Or for example, you can blend exposures for night photography, such as for Milky Way photos, where you take one exposure for the foreground before complete darkness, and then take the second exposure for the Milky Way hours later. Then you can blend the two exposures in Photoshop by using layer masking. And that mask visualization, where you can really fine tune the edges, it helps you. It helps you fix this at any point before you flatten them. So you can go back and forth all the time to make the edge perfect. So there are not too bright areas where it shouldn't be, for example. And what else? I think I covered everything what I wanted to show, but I can show you, for example, some creative compositions from tunnel view. I've heard that a lot of people complain that, you know, everything is over photographed. So, you know, I go to Yosemite all the time. And I think this is I only have 2 prints among hundreds and hundreds of Yosemite prints that I have that actually show full tunnel view with El Capitan to the left and Cathedral Rocks to the right. And so this is one of them. But if you are using a telephoto lens, you can find many other creative compositions. And I'll just go through these slides so you can see what you can do from this scene. This one's nice, dramatic lights, dramatic clouds, nice highlights. But here is Bridal Veil in fog. And it appears like it's seeping from the clouds. I really think it's a neat way to make it a little bit different. And fog and mist are my favorite things to photograph because they're moving all the time. They are not static. The compositions are changing, and they help conceal distracting elements. So this is the second image that I have that you can tell it's close to classical view, but everything after that is not. So this is photographed in snow. There was dusting of snow and clouds were lifting from the valley. And I thought it's a really surreal scene captured from top view. And this is just focusing, everybody knows it's El Capitan, but it's even not, it's not the entire rock showing. It shows portion of the rock in the emphasis is just this illuminated stripe across El Capitan. Again, this is El Capitan with the little tree. I like the diagonals in this image. It also, the El Capitan divides this image in three. So you have a triangle here. You have obviously the subject, the El Capitan, just the nose, and then this darker side that emphasizes El Capitan just because it's a darker and very textured with nothing prominent, no prominent subject there. This is a sunrise, and this is El Capitan, obviously backlit, and it was right after fresh snow, and that first light illuminated the mist. And I thought this is one of my favorite images of El Capitan that I photographed. Not too many people will, right away say it's El Capitan. And this is the same tree that I captured it the same day as here. This little tree. Just I zoomed in and included a portion of this cloud in the tree. And I don't think anybody could tell this is Yosemite from tunnel view. It could be anywhere. This is Bridalveil from tunnel view using telephoto lens. And so on purpose, I didn't include the top because to me, this wasn't about showing the landmark, showing the iconic waterfall. It was more about the flow of water and how it was swirling around Yosemite Valley. More mist. I photographed this, I think it was 2014 or 15 when it was the first year when all the trees starting dying from the bark beetle. Before they lost the leaves, they look like this. So this is another, so this one and this one, oh no, another view of Bridalveil Falls and the mist, but without a classic wide view of from the tunnel view, including El Capitan on the left and Cathedral Rocks to the right. Just focusing on the mist and the water and the flow. This little guy photobombed my composition, but he actually made my composition. It's a raven. Another view from tunnel view. And this is focusing just on mist and trees. And I really like this one. I call it Sleepy Forest because I usually avoid taking photographs of trees when they just have small patches of remnants of the leftover snow, because usually it appears unruly. But when I made this image, to me, it looked like little Christmas lights in fog. So I did some post-processing by darkening, by actually increasing contrast between the misty part, which I brighten, and the rest of the forest to be as dark as possible. So it looks spooky. And again, one of the Bridalveil and rising mist from the valley. That's it. I can maybe stop sharing my screen, and if you have questions, let
Thank
me
you,
figure out how
Franka.
to do it. You're welcome. I minimized the window while I was sharing the screen, and now I can't figure out how to oh, all right.
I would encourage everyone that you go and see Franka's images in person at the Spectrum or anywhere else you might show. Where else do you show here in the Valley and the foothills?
Well, yeah, I have it in Madeira Art Center, and I have them at Stellar Gallery in Oakhurst and Ridgeline Gallery in Mariposa.
Yeah, it's so much easier to appreciate an image if you see the print, I think anyway. But this is a teaser. Does anybody?
I like
Go
prints.
ahead.
Yeah, that I like making prints. That's my favorite thing. Just having the image looking on the screen, it's not finished image for me. I
Yes.
have to have.
Franka, you make your own prints, and what kind of machine do you use if you do?
I have Epson 3880. That's my third Epson printer. I used to have 3800, 4900, and then just before they discontinued the 3880, I bought it because I knew that it's a good, machine that with no issues, and so I still have it. It's still running good. I have no need to replace it because the only thing what happened is the inks for this particular printer are getting more and more expensive. I think they want me to buy that P800, the new model.
Yes,
With,
I'm having the same problem. I have a 30 also. Let's encourage some questions about Franka's work or her thoughts or her processing style. Speak up.
Franka, this is Dan. Do you have a favorite paper that you use?
I use several. I use Epson Exhibition Fiber for luster paper. I used to use similar paper, which was it's luster it's satin paper, actually satin, not luster. Epson Exhibition Fiber or Ilford Gallery Gold Fiber Silk, and whichever is on sale. So I buy. Then for matte paper, I used Epson. It's hot press bright.
Beautiful.
It has optical brightness, but it's a nice heavy paper with beautiful color reproduction, and and then I have others that I tried here and there but these are my two papers that I use most often.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have some more questions. So what's your favorite lens? Do you have a favorite lens that you like to use? Your go-to lens?
My go-to is 80-400, but I use any lens, for the job. So I have the entire range. I just like telephotos because I can find my own scene. I can, isolate the subject and find more unique compositions than if I use wide angle lens to capture more. I like to capture less with fewer elements. I like to simplify the scene. So, yes.
do you overshoot your pictures so that you can capture the scenes and isolate certain segments of the picture?
I don't. I'd rather because I mean, I see them in the field. Well, I can do sometimes include just a little bit wider, just in case I know my lens may not be sharp at the borders, and then I will use that image, the sharp portion of the image, basically without corners and borders. And often what I would do is, instead of having the entire file, which is 2:3 ratio, I will have 4:5 ratio. And then I eliminate those soft corners right away. But I'm usually not extracting. I could come and see, when I'm reviewing my images, oh, look, I could have focused on this. And then I'll go next time and try to photograph. Maybe it's not the same, but it's a similar scene that I noticed on my file that I already captured, but I didn't capture it. I will not crop it too much.
Franka, do you have
Unless the bird, that I can't get any close. Yeah.
who has influenced you the most photographically?
I don't know. There are a lot of contemporaries, and we all influence each other. And so it is growing process and evolving process.
Oh yeah,
I've been doing, yeah, but it's hard to say. I like creativity of William Neal. But I don't take similar photographs as he does. But,
I didn't quite
he always.
I didn't catch the name.
William Neal.
William Neal.
Yeah, he experiments all the time, and I like that. I like that approach. I may not, do what he does. I'm more drawn to. I'm still drawn to more atmospheric, moody images. These are the scenes that excite me the most. But if light is not conducive for such, I will make those dramatic black and white images that I showed you, because that's how the light is, and I do best what I can from those conditions.
Great. Well, let's have some more questions, or we're going to have to wrap it up here. Yes, you've shown some beautiful images. I again encourage anybody that can to go see your images at the museums. You have a website where you sell your images as well, don't you?
Yeah, my name is frankagabler.com.
That's easy.
And what I showed you today, that the last images, so Tunnel View is not my to-go location. This is the last place where I will go. But I just wanted to show you what can you capture from Tunnel View that's not typical Tunnel View photos. My favorite things is just walking into the forest and wandering by the river and photographing trees and mist and water flowing, all that, because I experience more than using telephoto lens, and I can feel the place more by being there than by using telephoto lens.
Yeah.
Franka, on behalf of the Fresno Camera Club, I thank you very much for what you've done tonight. And it was a very good presentation. And I think everyone gained something from it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Franka. Thank you very much.
All right.
And
Elizabeth,
you're welcome to come to our meetings anytime you like.